You should be the best at taking care of yourself. No one else should do that better than you. What am I not giving myself that I've been giving the world too much of? Before, I didn't understand that I was a complete product of my culture and society. I was whatever my environment was making me out to be. My voice became so much louder when I moved to another country because that was the only voice that I had. If I can push you to be above me, I'm gonna do that. You should leave people better than you found them. You should never go into someone's life and contaminate who they are. Once you recognize that it's there, you take away its power. It's when you don't realize that you're doing something that that thing is in control of you. Your body is noticing things that excitement and nerves is overriding. There are two types of men. There are men that want to serve and there are men that want to be served. There can come times where someone treats you a specific way, but the way that they're treating other people is not in alignment with the way that they're treating you. And that's where the issue happens because there's a disconnect between who they actually are and how they're treating you. We are always communicating, and the way that we can communicate with someone determines the type of connection that we will have with someone. Meeting the right person will feel so peaceful, and that might make you feel uneasy. And that is why later on in the line, you're like, oh, you're so different. They're not. They've shown you who they are this whole time. You just didn't look. You just weren't seeing it. I do understand that it's very easy for some people to love, and it's very difficult for them to be loved. Hey you guys, welcome back to another episode of Echoes of Me. This is a podcast about healing and growing, and I use my personal experiences to help you guys along the way. And in today's episode, I'm pretty excited about it because I will actually be answering questions that you guys have asked me. So I posted a poll on social media and you guys could ask me anything, and today I'll be answering all the questions. So question number 1, where are you now and how's your master's going? So I'm currently in China. I'm initially from South Africa. So I'm a South African living as an expat in China. I've been living here for about 5 years now, and I'm in a city called Wenzhou. I've been living in Wenzhou particularly for like 3 years now. And how's my master's going? It's very taxing. It's very mentally taxing, I would say. I'm right now busy with my thesis. So this is the final stretch of the master's program. While it's the most tedious, it's the most interesting. For the most part, I am enjoying what I'm doing because my topic is intercultural relationships in China amongst expats, particularly African expats. The content and the data that I got is really interesting, but it's just a lot of work. For the most part, I enjoy it. I like being mentally stimulated, so having the master's in addition to working is beneficial for someone like me that likes to be stimulated, but it does get overwhelming and I do feel overstimulated if I'm doing too much. As much as I'm happy that it's coming to an end, I do feel kind of sad because I've been doing this for such a long time, like studying, that I just know that the moment I stop studying, I'm going to want it again. Okay, next question. How has your life changed since moving to China, and what do you miss most about South Africa? Wow, my life has done a complete 180 since I've came to China. I would say that there's a pre-China Kayla and a post-China Kayla because there's two versions of me. They are not the same people. As much as like at my core, I'm probably the same person. You know, that indoctrinated values are still there. I'm a lot different, and friends and family has also told me that I'm definitely not the same person that I was. So how has my life changed? I think that I've become a lot more resilient and independent because I left everything behind in SA. I knew no one when I came to China. I just packed my things, came to China, couldn't speak the language, didn't know what I was getting myself into, didn't even understand the culture fully. So I got an immense amount of culture shock. I think it's just leaving your safety net, leaving home and everyone behind. It changes you because you need to then become self-sufficient. You don't have a safety net. You don't have anyone that you can go to, rely on. You only have yourself. And I think that is what also proved to me that I can do it. I can do anything because I've done everything by myself and I survived it. It definitely helped me develop fortitude, more so than I already had before. It was kind of just magnified when I came to China because I was on my own. I think I'm a lot more confident now in China too, because I was very insecure, very withdrawn, very shy back in SA. I would never speak out about what I believe in. I would just like kind of shy away and be quiet. I never really had something to say versus now I do. And it's because I've had to rely on myself for such a long time that I've developed so many skills and tools. I just became so much more equipped as a person. Also, coming into a new environment and leaving everything that I once knew before behind, I kind of had to develop a new identity because I was kind of shaped by my culture and society back in South Africa. And then when I stepped into a new culture, I just started seeing the world differently. Definitely my worldview and my perspective shifted. And then kind of naturally my identity did too. So instead of just being a result of my culture and where I'm from, I started molding my identity myself into what I wanted to be. It made it easier for me also because there wasn't any influence. Like I wasn't really influenced by my environment or by people that were surrounding me because there was no one. It was just me. So it was easy for me to just develop what I wanted and who I wanted to be. So I think the biggest change was probably that I developed an identity. What do I miss most about South Africa? There are many things that I miss about South Africa, but I have to say one thing that I miss the most about South Africa has to be the food. The food over here is just bland. Like South African food just have flavor. I have yet to come across a restaurant here in China that I could say equals anything that I've had in South Africa. There is nothing that can compare to the food that I've had in South Africa. So that's one thing that I miss. Also, just the people, the vibe. South Africans are such fun people and they're such thick-skinned, savage people, I would say. I kind of just miss the way that we are with one another, the kind of community that we have amongst one another, the way that we can come together. We're definitely social people for the most part. We are social people and we like social gatherings, and I think I miss those social gatherings, especially with family members. I only have my sister here, so we still do that. But it's different when it's just me and her versus when it was all of us together. I definitely miss being around family. Just being able to get up and go to a family member. I'm most of the time just by myself here in China, and I do prefer it. I like being on my own. I'm very much introverted in that way that I like being by myself and I enjoy my own company. But I do miss being around family and being able to just get up and visit and just sit amongst company like that. I do miss that. Okay, next question. What is the biggest lesson you've learned moving to another country? I think the biggest lesson that I've learned was that before I didn't understand that I was a complete product of my culture and society. It was only once I stepped away and outside of that environment that I realized just how much that environment was influencing me, just how much that environment molded me. It almost felt like I didn't have an identity. I was whatever my environment was making me out to be. I was whatever people told me I was, and I just ran with that. It was only once I stepped away from everything that I actually developed my own identity. Like, who am I actually, without other people telling me who I am? And I didn't have so many voices. It was just my voice. My voice became so much louder when I moved to another country because that was the only voice that I had. Moving to another country, it helped me develop my sense of self. What gives you peace when life gets overwhelming? Like I said, I'm an introvert, so I kind of move inward when everything gets too much. A way that I pull myself towards myself is by taking some time out for myself. Like, we get pulled in all these different directions. We have work, we have to work out, we have to socialize. If you have a partner, you have that. If you have a husband, you have kids. You have so many things going on that you can forget about yourself. Something that gives me peace is just being by myself. Just having a moment to myself. Just focusing on myself. Like taking care of myself, doing my skincare. reading a book, journaling, like seeing what's going on in my head, having like a check-in with yourself, seeing where my head's at, seeing what my body feels like. How am I mentally, physically, psychologically, emotionally? What do I feel like I'm lacking? What do I need right now? I'm very good at kind of checking in on myself because I'm very self-aware. I'm very aware of the emotions that I feel. I'm very aware of what my body is telling me and what my body is needing, what my thoughts are doing. So a way that I just kind of center myself when I'm feeling overwhelmed is just to only take care of myself, only focus on myself, just ignore the outside world and zone in and just see, what does Kayla need right now? What does Kayla have to do to make herself feel better? What do I need right now to be okay? What am I not giving myself that I've been giving the world too much of? Because sometimes you tend to give more externally than internally. And I think when I get overwhelmed, I stop giving externally and I only give internally. That's how I kind of overcome getting overwhelmed. It's just focusing on me and tending to what I need. Okay, next question. What are your top core values? One of my core values is growth. I'm a sole believer that we all should grow and we should all help each other grow. No one should be left behind. It's not about me trying to be better than anyone. If I can push you to be above me, I'm going to do that. Something that is very important to me is that you should leave people better than you found them. I feel that you should never go into someone's life and contaminate who they are. I'm very big on, I want to make an impact when I interact with someone, but a good impact. Bringing one another down is just something that I could never get myself into doing. It's just not who I am, and it's something that I do not believe us as humanity should be doing. But obviously, like, these things are happening around the world, but that is probably why this particular value is just like my top value. It's just growth. It's just, we all should be growing. We all should be doing better. I want to see us all be the best versions that we can be. Another thing I value is just kindness. It's something that you don't see too often in day-to-day life. I wish I saw more of it, but at the same time, that is why it's a value to me. If it's something that I want to see out in the world, it's something that I need to be doing out in the world. So I try my best to show kindness where I can, to do acts of kindness, do things just to make someone else happy, not for your own benefit. There is just something about watching an act of kindness that gives me like a dopamine hit. It just warms my heart to see someone just do something so selfless, just for the sake of seeing someone else happy. Like, it has nothing to do with them and everything to do with just wanting better for the next person. That is why I value kindness that much. Another top core value I would say is I'm big on take care of yourself. A lot of us go out into the world expecting other people to be sensitive about triggers, to take care of us, to look after us. I believe that we should be well equipped to take care of ourselves. Like, out of everyone that you know, you should be the best at taking care of yourself. No one else should do that better than you. So you need to constantly be practicing taking care of yourself. That is a big value to me. I love being able to take care of myself. I love being able to look after myself, be compassionate towards myself, work on myself, push myself. And I think when you have that value, when you are able to look after yourself, you teach people how to handle you. You teach people that you are someone of value. You are someone worth treating well, worth looking after. Because I think that it's very difficult to treat someone bad that is treating themselves so well. So if we're all treating ourselves well, it's very likely that we'll be surrounded by people that is also treating us well. And then you just have like a whole community that is just looking after one another in a good, healthy way. What is something you're most proud of and why? I think something that I'm most proud of has to be the fact that I can emotionally regulate myself. The way that I can regulate my own emotions, I can easily pick up what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling that way, and what I need to do to ensure that that feeling doesn't persist, especially if it's a negative emotion. But then also with the positive emotions, I'm very good at picking up this is a positive emotion. I feel good right now. What can I do to ensure that I keep feeling this way? I think I've gotten to a good point where my emotions are no longer controlling me. I'm very much in control of my emotions. And this is not to say that I don't get emotional or I don't react emotionally. I'm still human at the end of the day. But for the most part, I'm very good at recognizing my emotions very quickly and deciding what I do next. So it's very rare that you'll catch me act out of emotion or react. I'm responding. I'm not reacting. And I think that being able to emotionally regulate myself has just brought me a lot more peace because I'm not going out seeking advice all the time. I'm not indecisive. I'm not needing external validation. Because I'm able to regulate my emotions, it becomes very difficult for me to be triggered or bothered by external factors. Because inward, I'm okay. So externally, even if there's a lot of chaos happening, even if I'm facing obstacles, even if the world is in shambles, I'm okay. So I'm better equipped to manage myself and to handle whatever's happening because I can regulate myself. I can get to a point where I'm stable and I can deal with whatever's happening with a level head. And I'm most proud of it because it's something that I had to work for. I never had this growing up. I always felt so unstable. Like my thoughts, my emotions completely controlled me. I was a makeup of whatever I was thinking and feeling. And my thoughts and feelings were based on what everyone else was saying and doing. It didn't come from me. So I'm proud of this because I did this. And it helps me stay in control of myself because the way that I move right now is all me. I'm not saying that I don't get influenced by the world. Of course we do. We are very influenced by our environment and the people that surround us. But for the most part, I am doing things because I want to. I'm saying things because I want to. It's all coming inwardly. So that has to be the one trait about me that I'm most proud of. Specifically because it wasn't a trait that I was like naturally born with. It was something that I had to work on. How do you manage self-sabotaging behavioral traits? I think the first step when it comes to self-sabotaging is recognizing it. Because once you recognize that it's there, you take away its power. It's when you don't realize that you're doing something that thing is in control of you. But when you recognize it and you can see, right, this thing is happening, that's where you take the wheel. That's where you take control. Because now you notice that this is something happening and you can change the outcome. And noticing it is not going to eliminate it. But once you notice it, and you can continue to notice it. You can continue to do something about it. So you notice, okay, this is self-sabotaging behavior. What do I do next? It's also about choosing not to do that thing. And it's very difficult because self-sabotaging behaviors, it comes naturally. It's not something that we're consciously thinking about. But what we're trying to do is make it conscious. And that is why recognizing it is the first step. Because once you see what's happening, you're bringing it to your conscious. And once you bring it to your conscious, you're able to change it. And then with self-sabotaging behaviors, it's all about just continuing to get it right. Because like I say, these are natural behaviors. It's something that you do without thinking about it. And you need to actively work on it. Because consciously, you need to ensure that you are now not doing that behavior. Which is difficult. It is very difficult. But it's a lot better to manage this behavior when it's consciously versus when it's subconsciously. Okay, next question. How do you overcome fear? I think I have the same answer for both of these previous questions now. Self-sabotaging behavior and fear. The first step is recognizing what is it that is making you scared. A good way for you to overcome your fear is to recognize what behaviors you are displaying based on your fear. And in order to understand that, you need to recognize what the fear is. Because we are behaving out of fear. A lot of our behaviors come from us being fearful of something. So maybe you're very hypervigilant. It's because you have a fear that someone's going to attack you. You have a fear that someone's going to kidnap you. You have a fear that someone's going to hurt you. You have a fear of the unknown. That's where that behavior is stemming from. You need to watch your behavior actually. Watch your behavior and ask yourself, why do I behave that way? If the root of your behavior is fear, bring it to your conscious. That's the best way to ensure that the fear is not in control of you, that you are actually in control of your fear. We have toxic behaviors, we have bad tendencies because we're not realizing that we are doing it. It's coming so naturally to us. It's a result of something, but it's most of the time a result of fear. These are defense mechanisms that we've developed because of fears that we had growing up. And a way to overcome them is to bring them forward. Everything in your unconscious is controlling you. When it's in your conscious, you are in control of it. And that's where you want to be. Next question. What are the signs of attraction you look out for? I think when it comes to men in particular, so I'll make this reference about men. There are two types of men. There are men that want to serve and there are men that want to be served. I like looking out for men that want to serve because I feel that I'm someone that naturally gives. I have a lot to give. I have a lot to offer. Naturally, I'm gonna want to give. So I do not want to be with someone that's a taker, someone that wants me to always serve them, because I'm gonna feel like I'm not getting what I need in return. It's gonna feel like I'm just giving, and that person is just taking. Whereas I know I'm someone that serves. If I have someone that wants to serve, both of us will be served. Another thing that I look out for is just like kindness. Is this person kind? How is this person speaking of other people? How is this person treating other people? There can come times where someone treats you a specific way and this person can treat you so well and you can feel so loved by this person. But the way that they're treating other people is not in alignment with the way that they're treating you. And that's where the issue happens because there's a disconnect between who they actually are and how they're treating you. So it's very important to me to see how they are treating other people, not just how they are treating me. Because the way that they are treating me is because they want to be seen in a specific light, versus if I watch the way they're treating other people, that's who they are. And that's what I need to see. I need to see, is this person actually a good person? Another sign of attraction that I'm always looking out for is this person observant? Is this person looking beyond what they can see? Because I'm like that. I'm going to see something before you even tell me. And I like people that does the same thing. Like people that take note. I like people that pay attention. And then another thing that I'm always looking out for is, how does this person communicate? Can this person comprehend what I'm saying? And do I like what the person have to say and how they are telling me? Because communication is very important, and not just in a relationship. Communication is important with friendship, with family, in a workplace, socially. We are always communicating. And the way that we can communicate with someone determines the type of connection that we will have with someone. And then lastly, just how do I feel around the person? Our unconscious are picking up on subliminal cues that our conscious cannot. So how your body is feeling when you're around someone, that should tell you something. Your body is noticing things that excitement and nerves is overriding. And that is why just tapping into what you feel when you're around this person is very important to me. Because sometimes the person can just be good on paper, say all the right things, but you don't feel good about that person. It's important to take note of that feeling. It's important to acknowledge that that feeling is there because there's a reason why it's there. Feelings don't just come up. They don't just come out of nowhere. There's a reason that you feel the way you feel. It's because your unconscious are seeing things that your conscious cannot. Okay, next question. How do you know he's the one? I think you know he's the one when you are able to completely be yourself around this person. Sometimes when you meet people, they make you behave in ways that you know you're not. And that's when you know that that's not your type of person. Like they're evoking behavior in you that you don't like. When you don't like the person that you are around this person, that is not your person. The person that's the one would make you feel so like yourself. You don't have to say things in a specific way. You don't have to do things in a specific way. There will be no games that you need to play because you can just be yourself and be accepted for that and feel okay with just being yourself. That's how you know someone's the one. Every fiber of your being will be telling you that this person is a yes. And everything feels right. There's no chaos. There's no back and forth. There's no doubt. And when I say doubt, I don't mean like you ask yourself the question, is this person the one? Because you will begin to question it, especially if this person is so different from what you're used to. You're going to sit and be like, is this person the one? And that doesn't mean he's not the one. Because that means that just you are not familiar with what is presented to you right now. That person could still be the one and you could still feel doubtful about it. Okay, next question. Is there such a thing as the one, or do we create love with the right person? I mean, given that I just answered the previous question, I do feel like there's the one, but I think the person is asking, is there the one, or can you create the one with like anyone? And if that's the question, then I do feel that you could create the one with anyone, because I think we are all at a different timeline. And there's a point that we all reach where we are ready to kind of get into a relationship and settle down. And if we are both at that point, no matter where in the timeline we are, if we are both at that point, that person will feel like the one. I think when you know he's the one, he just feels different to everyone else too. Like, the one usually doesn't look like everyone else. There would just be something about this person that hits different. But there would be something about this person that feels safe. Something about this person that lights something inside of you that no one else can. And it will not feel like chaos. Like, meeting the right person will not make you doubt yourself, will not make you overthink, will not make you sit in states of anxiety. Meeting the right person will feel so peaceful, and that might make you feel uneasy. But that just means that that person is the right person for you. Because relationships shouldn't feel chaotic. They should add value. They should bring peace to your life. And I'm not saying that there won't be chaos, as in there won't be arguments, there won't be disagreements, there won't be rough times. That's not what I'm saying at all. But for the most part, it should feel like this person came into your life and they just fit right in. It was just a puzzle and they just being put in that place. It shouldn't feel like they're coming in there and disrupting your whole world. It should feel like there was actually a piece there for them and they just fit in it. I think that there can be a person that might be compatible with you, and if you guys were both at that point, you would work. But because they're at a different point and you're at a different point, you would not feel like the one, even though it could be, once he gets to that point. So I think the one is when you're at that point and he's at that point where you both are ready for it. That's for me what makes the one. So I do think that it's not necessarily one person that can be the one. It's just about where you're at. Where are you at? Where's the next person at? Okay, next question. If you could give yourself 3 helpful pieces of advice regarding love, what would it be? The first thing would be to give myself time to get to know the person. I think a lot of times when we start dating someone, we have blinders on. We're not seeing the person for who they actually are. And that is why later on in the line, you're like, oh, you're so different. They're not. They've shown you who they are this whole time. You just didn't look. You just weren't seeing it. And I have this thing where I put people on a 3-month probation before I even decide if I want to consider dating them, if I want to consider getting into a relationship with them. And I even think that 3 months is not enough, but it gives me time to see what I need to see. It gives me time to see the person at their core, because I need to see how this person responds when they're angry. I need to see how this person is when they're at their lowest. I need to see how this person responds when they're sad. I need to see how this person reacts to me when I'm not feeling good. And those things you cannot see within the first stages of the relationship. Because during the start of the relationship, like, you are actively trying to impress the person. The person is trying to impress you. You guys are not actually being yourselves. And I'm not saying we're being fake or we're putting on a facade. That's not it. Like, you naturally want to impress the person that you potentially see a relationship with. And that is why I believe that in the first initial stages, you shouldn't get too caught up in the person. You should give yourself time to see who this person actually is. So that would be one piece of advice. Ensure that you actually know the person before you get into a relationship. Ensure that you've seen enough sides of this person to know that this is someone that you can do a relationship with. Number 2 would be to check core values. I think that the reason why so many people end up breaking up or even getting divorced is because at the start, your core values, your principles, beliefs, they were not in alignment to begin with. Okay, let me give you an example of a core value. If you want to raise your kids in the church, but your partner does not want to raise their kids in the church, as much as you guys love each other, as much as your relationship works, once kids come into play, that is going to be an issue, because at your core, there's a value that's deep rooted in religion, in the Bible, in God, versus the next person that doesn't want their kids to be associated with that, that's going to cause a big issue down the line. I grew up in a society where you shouldn't be asking these hard questions in the beginning because it's too early to ask those questions. But what I found with me personally is I don't ask the hard questions, and then 6 months, 12 months in, I realized that this person is not for me. The goals that we have, where we see ourselves, how we would like our family to look like, how their family affects them is actually not what I want. So a piece of helpful advice that I could give myself is to check if my goals is in alignment with theirs. It doesn't need to be exactly the same, but it needs to be similar. It needs to be able to coexist. If your core values are too different, and specifically if they're kind of opposing, that's not going to work down the line. As much as you feel for this person, as much as you love this person, it's not going to work out along the line. Okay, the third piece of advice that I would give myself is something that I only started doing recently. It's develop a friendship. I get into relationships and it's solely romantic, and then it becomes so serious. There is no fun. There's no companionship. Like, I've dated people before that if I was not in a relationship with them, I wouldn't like them. That is so messed up. To be in a relationship romantically with someone that you wouldn't even like if you were not in a relationship with them, what is that? And it's because I never ever developed that friendship. Do I actually like the person? Do we get along with someone? Do we get along? Can we laugh with each other? Do we have the same sense of humor? Can we make jokes about something? Can we develop inside jokes? I just run into it head first, and it's all romantic. It's all serious. Okay, next question. Do you think you are ready to love and be loved depending on your current journey? I do feel like I'm ready to love and be loved. I think for me personally, it's easier to love than to be loved. I think to be loved is something that I have been struggling with for the longest time. I've now reached a point where I'm very much okay with being loved. I'm very much ready to sit back and let someone love me without feeling guilty, without feeling like I don't deserve it. But I do understand that it's very easy for some people to love, and it's very difficult for them to be loved. So I think the part that you have to actively be working on is to be okay with being loved, to be okay with someone doing something for you and not feeling the need to have to give something back when they do something for you. To just allow another person to take care of you, especially after a long time that you are so used to just taking care of yourself. But where I am right now, I am definitely ready to love and be loved. How do you maintain a healthy balance between your love life and your well-being? I think it's important to put up boundaries earlier on, because it's very difficult to implement boundaries once you already kind of have a flow or routine with someone. It's a lot easier to set them up in the beginning. So if I can make an example of this, if I don't like doing anything on a Sunday. Sundays are my reset days. I don't want to go out. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to call anyone. I kind of just take that day to recenter myself, to pull myself towards myself. Like, that's my day, like my self-care day. And then I start talking to someone, and this person is like, oh, let's go out on Sunday. And I'm just like, okay, let's go out. I am compromising on myself in that moment. I need to put up that boundary and tell that person, look, I don't go out on a Sunday because this is actually my day. And it will also tell you a lot about the person, if they're able to respect your boundaries or not. When it becomes difficult to balance it, it's because there's no boundaries put in place for your well-being and for your love life. There needs to be allocated time for your well-being and allocated time for your love life, and the next person understand that there is separate time allocated for both of the things. So it's important for you to communicate what is important to you so that your partner knows that this thing has time allocated for it. So when you are doing it, you don't feel guilty for not being with your partner, because they know and understand that this is something that you need to do for yourself. So that's how I maintain a healthy balance. I make the person well aware that there will be time allocated for them and there will be time allocated for myself, and that is how I keep a balance. What are good study tips that you use that also prevent burnout? I think, again, time allocation. I allocate time for my study. I allocate time for myself. Like, allocating time for yourself is so important. I know it sounds like a silly thing to do. Like, why would I allocate time for myself? But A lot of the times we have these days and we get so overwhelmed by what we're doing and we get pulled in different directions that we kind of forget about ourselves. We forget that we also need time to ourselves. We forget that we just need to take a moment too. We have so much going on in a day. We need to be allocating time for ourselves. We're like a machine and you need to fuel your machine. If you don't take that time to refuel, to maintain, you're going to burn out. Your machine is going to break. It's going to malfunction. You need to be taking care of your machine, which is you. You need to be taking care of yourself. You cannot be doing all these things and forget about yourself, because at the end of the day, you are the person having to do all those things. Like, you're taking care of so much things. You need to learn to take care of yourself as well. So I think one good study tip would be to allocate time. Allocate time to studying. Allocate time to this subject. Like, have a timetable for yourself. And don't bite off more than you can chew. When you allocate specific time, ensure that the time that you're allocating is attainable. Something that you can do. A lot of the times we feel like we need to be doing the most to feel good in a day. We need to be overproductive to have a good day. But rest is just as important. Allocating time to rest to make you more productive is important. So that's one study tip. Another one would be to understand how you learn best. Do you learn better by reading and rewriting? Do you learn better by summarizing? Do you learn better by going on YouTube and visualizing everything? You need to understand your learning style. How are you learning? How are you processing information? How do you absorb information? It's very important to understand that. Otherwise, you'll just be doing a lot and doing nothing at the same time. It's very important to understand how you learn best and then implement that. And then I think another thing that is a good study tip is to check the different methods. So in order to memorize, there's a specific technique. There's a lot of different techniques that they don't actually teach us in university and in school that you can implement to help you get something. So if it is that you want to be remembering word, there's a specific technique for that. If it is that you need to summarize something, there are techniques for that. Right now, there are a lot of influencers on TikTok and YouTube that actually teach you those techniques. So I think it's not just about sitting and trying to absorb all the information. There are techniques that help you follow, that help you process information, that is important to know. That is possibly why you feel like you're sitting and you're studying so long, you're absorbing all this information, but you're not actually doing anything. It's because you don't actually have a technique. And techniques are actually important. So it's important to do your research on how to study before you actually study. Okay, next question. What tips do you have for trying to be consistent in gym and living a healthy lifestyle while still having fun? Okay, so I think that it's important to not restrict yourself and not do too much. Like, a lot of the times when it comes to like having a healthy lifestyle, you feel like you need to restrict yourself. That's not the problem. I saw this one girl say that food is not your enemy, portions are. So if you want to have something that you like, maybe you like having like fries, or maybe you like eating chips, like just don't eat the whole bag, then have a little and then put it away. Like, food is not your enemy. Food is not the reason that you can't lose weight, or food is not the reason you're gaining weight, it's your portions. So I think you can still eat what you want, but in moderation. To be consistent in gym, do what you like. Do not follow what other people are doing. Like, there is so much content out there right now about how you can lose weight, how you can get toned, how you can. But what is going to work for you? We all have different body types. We all have different eating habits. We all have different lifestyles. You need to find what works for you. I do not like plank. I do not like crunches. I do not like any ab work. I don't like arm workouts either. So what I do is I like running, I like walking, I like boxing, I like cardio, I like the Stairmaster, I like inclination walking. So when I go to the gym, those are the things I'm doing. I'm doing what I enjoy. You don't have to be doing what everyone else is doing. Don't feel like you're not doing enough because you're not doing what other people are doing. If you're doing what you like in the gym, that's fine. 10 minutes of you being active every day is enough. You're doing something. It's not like you're doing nothing. In order to be consistent in gym, you need to be enjoying it. If it feels like an obligation, if it's costing you mentally to get to the gym, you're not going to want to go to the gym, because who wants to do something that they don't like? When you are trying to be consistent at the gym, make it a fun place to go. Make it a place where you enjoy being at. Make it a place where you're doing things that you enjoy doing. So if you like going to the gym but you like being on the treadmill, then go to the gym and be on the treadmill. You don't need to be doing weight training if you don't want to. I think that's a good way to start getting into the habit of going into the gym. It's about implementing systems to ensure that going to the gym becomes a habit. And being consistent with gym does not mean that you always want to go to the gym. It doesn't mean that you always feel to go to the gym. You are just in the habit of going to the gym. That's how you stay consistent. You're doing it whether you want to or not. Being consistent is about doing what you say as well, like creating attainable goals. Tell yourself, I'm going to go to the gym one time each week. And then you go to the gym one time each week. And if you go for 5 weeks, one time each week, that is you being consistent because your goal was attainable. Now that you're in the habit of going to the gym, now you can push yourself. Now you can tell yourself, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 2 times a week. And then you start going 2 times a week. That is how you develop consistency. But you need to ensure that the goal that you have is attainable enough for you to be consistent. If you're going to tell yourself, I need to go to the gym 5 times a week, how can you be consistent with that? There is no way. To begin with, you're already setting yourself up for failure. When you want to be consistent with something, ensure that it's something you can do. Because being consistent is creating a habit. And when you create a habit, it's something that you are going to do without feeling to do it. Because it's just by habit you're going to do it. Whether you want to or not, it's just a habit to go to the gym. So it's very important with consistency to create habits. And in order to create habits, you need to have attainable goals. And then also being consistent in the gym, living a healthy lifestyle while still having fun. It's not always going to be fun. There are days that I don't want to go to the gym, but I go anyway. Okay, next question. How do you become disciplined in saving for exploration? When you have to save for something, it's going to mean that you're going to have to sacrifice somewhere else. So I think the discipline comes in understanding that because I want to do this with my money, I'm not going to be able to do this. Like you cannot be doing all the things with your money. That's impossible unless you're making like an excessive amount of money. It's important for you to understand like what's important to you and allocate money to that. If you're now needing to save for a trip coming up, I'm going to need to cut down. Like maybe I'm not going to be able to buy me shoes and clothes because I'm going to want this. Maybe I'm not going to be able to buy me that expensive thing this month that I always get me because I want to do something else. So when you are having to take a chunk of your money for something else, you're going to need to cut down somewhere. It's when you still want to maintain your lifestyle and you want to add something that things become difficult for you. And then also like you need to actually want it. If you are wanting to save money for something, but other things keep coming up, it means that that thing is not priority. Like this thing needs to be priority for you because it's only when something is important to me that I actually do it. If it's not that important and you put other things above it, then those things are actually taking priority. So it's very important to understand, is what you are saving for, is what you are making a priority actually a priority to you? Because it will show if something is a priority to you when other things does not override that. But then also, it's very important to understand that when you're saving for something, you need to be cutting down somewhere else. Especially like if you don't have extra money, you're tapping into something. You're going to need to have to sacrifice somewhere else to make that money. That's the thing about saving, is whether you're saving for anything, you need to be living below your means. And that's something that my dad has taught me. If you are living above your means and you are wanting to save every month and you find yourself unable to save, that's exactly why. You're not living below your means. You have to live below your means in order to ensure that there is still money left to save. So I think that is what is important. And I think what separates the people that ends up saving versus the people that doesn't save is your willingness to live below your means. And for the longest time, like that was something that was so difficult for me because when I started making my own money, there was a lot of things that I couldn't have that I now can. And so I wanted to get myself all these things because I felt like I deserved it. Like I felt like I never had it before and I can have it now. So this is what I want. But it also ensured that I didn't save. I didn't actually get to go places that I want to because I never had additional money. So I needed to start living below my means to ensure that I had that money left over to do other things. And I guess where the discipline comes in is when it comes to saving, you just have to save. Like my dad told me that you just need to get into the habit of saving. It's the habit of saving that makes you disciplined. So if every month you are putting away a specific amount of money, irrespective of what the amount is, that is developing a habit, and that is what's going to make you disciplined. Okay, next question. For someone going through their healing journey, share one quote you'd give and why. Okay, something that I saw a lady on TikTok was saying, would you trade places with you 1 year ago? And if you wouldn't, that shows how far along you've come. Because a lot of the times in the healing journey, you cannot see the progress, or it doesn't feel like there is any progress. But if you sit and you can confidently sit here and tell me, I would not trade places with me 1 year ago, that means that you've gotten a lot further than you think you have. And that's the thing about the healing journey. You feel like you're doing so much and you're not seeing any results. And it does get demotivating if you are at that point. So I would just say, just remind yourself, you would not trade places with you 1 year ago. So there has to be a change for you to not want to go back. The last question is, how have you found doing the podcast? It's something that I'm still getting comfortable with. I do find myself very, very nervous every time before I start filming the podcast. It's not something that I'm used to because it's something very new to me. And it's something that I just told myself, just do it even if you're going to do it scared. It's something that I haven't perfected. It's just something that I'm getting to know along the way. I'm making mistakes. I recorded a whole podcast of this episode, and then my sound quality was bad, and so I couldn't use it, and now I'm sitting here having to do it again. So it's these things that I'm having to learn along the way. It's a very slow process for me, and I think it's kind of just a learning process right now. Because I'm still in the starting stages, I feel a lot less compelled to get it right. So I'm kind of just taking challenges along the way. I am enjoying doing it though. I feel like I have a lot to say. I'm very comfortable speaking about the things that I'm speaking about, and I'm not scared to answer questions, which is why I liked doing this. I actually didn't rehearse any of the questions, so even the fact that I recorded the podcast before and I've recorded this one again, the two answers are like completely different. Because when I'm doing the podcast, I don't really have anything written down except for the questions. I'm just speaking verbatim what comes to head when I hear the question. And that's better for me because I have to sit and be in my head about it. I'm going to overthink it, overanalyze it, and then I'm going to put so much pressure on myself. So I think just sitting here and just talking helps. There are difficult parts about the podcast, as in not a lot of people can comprehend what I have to say, but I kind of had to develop a thick skin because I understand that not a lot of people are going to resonate with what I'm saying, and not a lot of people are going to like what I have to say, and that's okay. So I've kind of needed to be comfortable with, this is what I have to say, and you can either like it or you cannot. I quickly needed to kind of realize that, some people are going to get it and some people are not, and that's okay. So for the most part, I have been enjoying the podcast. There's a lot of pros and cons to doing a podcast. I'm not going to lie. Like, there are some difficult times, like even to get myself to sit down and do it. Like when I start, I'm a lot more nervous when I start the podcast versus once I get into it and I have a flow of talking, I feel a lot more ready. But at that point, I've already done half of my questions. And then I kind of feel like, damn, I wish I had like the comfortability and the confidence that I have now at the start of the podcast. But I guess like the more I do it, I'll just get more comfortable. And I will get to a point where when I start the podcast, I'd be as confident as like halfway through. But what's interesting about the podcast is because I don't really like have an outline for what I'm saying. Sometimes when I'm doing the podcast, it will feel like, did I answer enough? Did I say enough? Did I babble? Do I actually have something good to say? And then when I'd watch it back, I would actually sit and agree with myself as though I'm watching a podcast. So it's definitely been like a confidence boost for me doing the podcast, and it's probably something that I'll continue doing because I enjoy doing it. I think that doing this podcast has shown me a different side of content creating as well, because I understand now how much goes into sitting here and filming. It's not about just putting the mic on, putting the camera on and filming. There's so much thought that goes through it. There's so much little things that you need to do. It's very mentally taxing actually to sit and do this. There's people that's posting so often, so they do this all the time. I have a lot more respect for people doing this. And also now watching podcasts is different for me because I understand what the behind the scenes look like. So for the most part, I've been enjoying it. And I really hope that you guys are also enjoying the podcast and what I have to say and the content that I'm creating. And if you guys have something specifically that you want to see for the next episode, please leave a comment down below and let me know. And hopefully for my next podcast, I wouldn't need to record 2 episodes for it. So until next time, bye.